they set everything on fire, and all those buildings, they don't exist anymore. But back then they were intact yet. And that helicopter flew over me, and when I saw it like turning behind the building, I thought, oh my god, this Mi-24 looks big. Like in computer games, like even bigger. So this is where our firefighters started shooting at those helicopters. And at first I thought, like, why? Like, why are you doing this? I mean, those helicopters, they look like they're armored and you cannot destroy them even using, I don't know, a freaking tank. No, the Ka-52 that was flying in this direction, approximately this direction, it caught flames from our fire, from rifles and machine guns. And later, that Ka-52 burning, it went somewhere in this general direction. And that, my friends, was the first helicopter that I saw literally with my eyes that was damaged or destroyed using the concentrated rifle fire from like rifles and machine guns. And I was like, whoa, what a surprise. I didn't see that coming. Okay, so I joined my colleagues, my brave firefighters, and we started shooting those helicopters. Again, we had to switch our position a lot. We had to find cover because helicopters were at that moment circling around our base. They were attacking basically this way and this way, so they were circling in majority of cases around the airport, but also flying over our base and trying to spot at least some personnel and hit this personnel with their rockets and automatic cannons. And I can tell you this, so of course it looks very, very scary, okay? It looks scary when you see that helicopter flying. Of course it's loud like hell and it's kind of sketchy, okay? But at the same point they're only sketchy because you don't know what happens, right? So what happens when you see a helicopter flying between those buildings? The pilot is concentrated on his avionics. He is very, very concentrated in order not to hit a building, not to die and things like that. They don't care about you, okay? But at the same time, when they are at the attack course, when the helicopter is on the attack course towards you, that is the moment when you better find a better place to be, because that is when your life is under danger, okay? That's when you're risking the most, because they can see you, they can spot you, probably, and they can shoot a bunch of rockets, and they have a lot of those. So we had to keep this 360 degrees of awareness, and Dutch Trader, we personally, my brigade didn't have any Stingers. We had two manpad groups at the territory of the airport, and those were armed with old Soviet manpads called Igla. And those were used to shoot down the attack helicopters like Ka-52 Alligators. Yurko, yes, that was very close to Kiev. And they got like 2 kilometers closer. We will talk about it. So what happened next? Next, in about an hour and 30 minutes, 2 hours, something like that, approximately after an hour, my guys that were fighting at the territory of the airport in this very location. So Russians were approximately here, and they were approximately here, shooting at my guys, and they took their positions in this general direction. Okay, so let's draw like a small trench here. My boys were stuck between those buildings, and first contact happened when commander of the company that protected Hostomel, he was driving his armored vehicle this way, and in this place, at this crossroad, this armored vehicle was hit by a grenade from a grenade launcher, and then they turned here, and they were shot at. So they made this like circle, they returned here, and that's when the battle started. That was the first contact versus Russian paratroopers. Later, I think the 3rd platoon also rushed here towards their comrades to help them, because they were overwhelmed and they were already running out of ammo. So they continued fighting. Again, my guys, I talked to them while we were being evacuated to Kiev, and they told us that as soon as they saw first Russian paratroopers falling down from their fire, it was a huge morale boost. As well as when they saw first helicopters being shot down and turning into like huge fireballs in the sky, it was a huge morale boost to everybody, because of course, like when you're in the combat for the first time in your life, I'm talking about those conscripts, it gets kind of uncomfortable, okay, but again, our conscripts had the same training as our professional soldiers, and the reason for that is that approximately 20% of those conscripts eventually sign contract in my brigade and continue serving in my brigade. Why do they do that? It's because my brigade is so cool, basically. That's the only reason. So they choose to continue serving and continue learning, and then they become, you know, those kick-ass professional soldiers, like trained killers, like Chris Kyle, with beards and tattoos and everything else. That's what usually happens. Level 70, how many were shot down and how many crashed on their own? We know that approximately 6 of them were shot down. Again, the numbers, I don't trust them much, because, you know, in the beginning we were talking about 35-40 helicopters over Hostomel. Later, when my commander talked to different generals and different people from the anti-air defense, he learned that 140 helicopters in the morning crossed the border from Belarus to Ukraine. And I think between 70 and 100 helicopters were involved into this air raid, and majority of those were attack helicopters. The reason why I think it's true is because imagine 40 helicopters. How much time would it take for them to shoot out all of their rockets and shells? Not too much time, because attack helicopter carries like a bunch of rockets, a couple of hundreds of shells for its automatic cannon, and what he can do is just shoot out everything he has it has, and then just move out, because there's no point for this helicopter to be there. And this is why those groups of helicopters, they were approaching us, shooting everything they had, and they were moving out, and other groups of helicopters would arrive instead of them. And because there were up to 100 helicopters, this is what happened, in my opinion. That's why this fight continued for so long, for 2 hours. So let's return to our map. I feel like, like a history teacher right now. To say that we were like nervous or something, I cannot say that, because before this attack happened, I saw a lot of my friends there, and we were like giggling like idiots, like we always do in the army. We told jokes, and it's a usual thing, nothing special. So we weren't like nervous, and my friend from the infantry platoon that was commanding the infantry of conscripts that were fighting over there, he told me that first time he saw one of his soldiers that had like stupor, he was frozen in one place. He thought that he was like he has this like stupor, it usually happens like when people are scared like as hell. No, it wasn't like that, because like when he asked why don't you shoot, why aren't you shooting, the soldier said, I have no ammo, all I can do is just observe the situation, sorry. That's when we realized that we have to change our plans, because we're running out of ammo. And so we made a report to our commander, and our commander ordered to move out from the airport through the base and out of the base, in order to save lives of our personnel. Because think yourself, we have approximately 300 Russian paratroopers, we have gazillion of helicopters flying around, and we ran out of anti-air measures, missiles, and our firearms will soon stop shooting, because our ammo is depleting. And by that time I had something like 1.5 magazines for my AK. Commander 401, hello buddy, nice to see you, join us please. So our guys started moving out from the airport. Here is like fence, fence between the airport and my base, and there were passages in this fence. So our guys started moving out in this general direction through the base. Okay. And as you remember, I will pick a pink color. As you remember, this was my general position at the base that time. So my sector, like what I could observe from my position, it looked something like this. This was my sector. Our guys were moving out this way, so through me, and then this in that general direction. So when we made sure that they left the airport, me and those firefighters that were with me, we decided to stay there and observe the situation. And after a while, and we knew, because we had radios, we knew that our forces already left that area. So after a while, we saw movement approximately like, no wait, it's a wrong color. We saw movement approximately here in this area, and of course they didn't look like our guys. So we opened fire, and the distance at this picture it doesn't look much, but from here to here there's approximately, let's say, maybe 500 meters, maybe 400, no, 500 is too much, I think around 400 meters or something like that. I think around. So we had a shootout with them there, but again it wasn't a long shootout because I almost spent all of my ammo on helicopters, and that's when we were forced to move out. And here I want to tell you some very, very funny story. So we GTFO'd in this general direction. Oh my god, this is the most perfect arrow I ever made in my life. We GTFO'd in this general direction, and here you remember that third group of Russian paratroopers. They took control of this area, and this area was our gates to our base. So this is where we were shot at again. But anyways, did you have here in protection? I think our grenade launcher operators did. I don't use that stuff. It's for cowards. So, but that's not the story. The story is, my sergeant, Stas, you probably saw him, he's my best buddy, and he's our sergeant major. He's the main sergeant of my brigade. He's the most aggressive and angriest SOB that you can imagine, okay, because he's supreme sergeant of the base. So he told his commander, my commander, that he left his things, he left his documents and everything at the base, and we were already moving out. And commander said, if you're sure that you can return, you can go back and pick your documents. So Stas took a car and rushed towards his office, and it was in the middle of the base, and there were nobody else out there already. Nobody, like no Ukrainian guardsmen, okay? So he rushed towards his headquarters, towards his office. He picked his documents, and then he noticed a car that belonged to our brigade, and it was parked outside. And he thought, probably I should pick a car because, you know, we may need it, you know. So he went to this car, and while going to this car, he noticed that at the gates there were guys wearing green uniforms, and because you can see those guys there like every day, the first thing you have is those guys must be our our guards, right, at the gates. So Stas, and you can imagine Stas, okay, this big and angry mofo. So he stood there in the middle of the base, and he shouted at those guys, like, "Get the heck out of there!" Okay, and they started shooting at him, and then he realized, oh, that probably Probably they're not our guys. Okay, so he jumped into the car and he GTFO'd. Imagine Russian paratroopers. So they flew from Belarus, they landed, there's like those helicopters flying and